Biomechanical Bodybuilding, Posing Explained, a Doug Brignole tribute, written by me, Coach Castle, to honor my truly amazing mentor. Douglas Paul Brignole was born December 15th, 1959, and he died October 13th, 2022. He was an American bodybuilder, fitness coach, biomechanics expert, and author. He attained fame as a multiple-time winner of the AAU, or Amateur Athletic Union, Mr. Universe, and Mr. American titles. Known for his long competitive career, he was the oldest man to win the title of Mr. Universe. Beyond his bodybuilding achievements, he was also well known for his research and application of biomechanical principles to resistance training, and for his use of cables, dumbbells, and isolation exercises, rather than the barbells and compound exercises mostly used by other titled bodybuilders. Now, Doug was born on December 15th, 1959, in Pasadena, California. He began weight training at the age of 14. At the age of 15, he joined the gym of Bill Pearl, a four-time Mr. Universe winner, who provided guidance and instruction. At the age of 16, Mr. Brignole began participating in bodybuilding competitions, which he would continue for the next 4 decades. Never a professional bodybuilder, Doug spent the majority of his career in the Amateur Athletic Union, or the AAU, and the National American Bodybuilding Association, or commonly known as NABA. At the age of 22, he won the 1982 AAU Mr. America in the medium-tall division, and topped this achievement by winning the 1986 AAU Mr. Universe in the light heavyweight division. In 1984, at the age of 24, he opened the Brignole Fitness Training Club in his hometown of Pasadena. Like many other competitive bodybuilders, Doug worked for several years as an independent personal trainer in West Los Angeles. Then, in 2005, Doug temporarily left the fitness industry. In 2007, returning to Los Angeles and resuming his work as a personal trainer, while also writing for various publications, Doug competed against bodybuilders of all ages. To date, Doug appears to have been the oldest person to have captured the title of Mr. Universe in the open division of any bodybuilding association. His bodybuilding competitive career spanned 43 years, from the age of 16 to the age of 59. At 16, after only 2 years of training, he entered and placed second in his first competition, the 1976 Teenage Mr. Compton contest. He subsequently placed first in 11 national and international bodybuilding competitions, including the 1983 AAU Mr. American, the 1986 WABA, or World Amateur Bodybuilding Association, Mr. Universe 1991, AAU Northwestern Mr. America, 2000 NPC, or the National Physique Committee, Championship, and 2014 Muscle Beach International Contests. In 2019, at the age of 59, Brignole won the title of AAU Mr. Universe, not only in his age category, the Masters Division, but also in the Open Division. With a deep knowledge of biomechanics and training principles, Doug's been certified and awarded numerous training certificates that enable him to pass on his knowledge to other trainers around the globe. A quick riser, at only 16 he took part in his first bodybuilding competition, and by the age of 24, he owned his own gym that became a huge success in Pasadena, California. Rising through tough times and being supported by only his mother, he managed to become one of the longest-serving and most knowledgeable professional bodybuilders the world has ever seen. And this is his story. Doug's publications and research. With his vast knowledge of training, he successfully co-authored an academic book for students in sociology called $1 Million Muscle. This book looks at the fitness industry from a historical and sociological standpoint. He is also very well known for his revolutionary and world-changing book, The Physics of Resistance Exercise, which has been an extremely controversial book ever since it was released. When it comes to Doug's training philosophy, he certainly knew what he was talking about as well, breaking many norms there as well. When it came to the biomechanics as well as the progressive overload, he tried and tested many different training principles, including heavy weight with low reps and lightweight with high reps, compound and isolation movements. For over 10 years, he used heavier weights instead of lighter weights, and he was beginning to get frustrated as he didn't see the results he wanted. When he switched up his training style and started working with lighter weights and higher reps, Doug noticed a considerable difference in his results. He began experimenting more, and as Doug put it, "My first mistake was that I kept using the same number of sets and only increased the reps with lower weight, naturally. That resulted in drastic overworking. So I took a big step back and decided to only do one exercise per body part per workout, but with very high reps. Specifically, I do 50 reps on the first set, 40 on the second, 30 on the third, 20 on the fourth, and 10 on the final set, usually with a breakdown or drop sets. Of course, the weight is proportionate to the reps. So, for the first set, I selected a weight that barely allows me to get 50 reps. I increased that for the second set, but only enough to allow me 40 reps, and so on. Sometimes I will do a 6 set, but that's it." Doug's results were then what he expected, and he experienced better growth with a combination of high reps and low sets. This just goes to show that even a professional, after a 10-year period, can still learn new techniques. Is the variety worth it? Over Doug's many years of training, he concluded that variety in each training session is not always the best answer, at least not for Doug. Virtually every article I've ever read involving exercise selection has recommended changing it up frequently, meaning that we should always do different exercises to shock the muscle and keep it from adapting. In my experimentation, however, I have found that to be entirely untrue. I've tried it both ways, using different exercises at every workout and using the same exercises at every workout, and frankly, I've gotten the better results using the same exercises. First off, assuming the exercise you're using is really good, why trade that for one that is not as good but different? Furthermore, no study has ever shown the need for variety. It's simply a hypothetical conjecture. It sounds reasonable. On the other hand, I make more progress doing an exercise with which I am extremely familiar and hammering the hell out of it. I believe these lessons are truly transformative. I wish I had known them when I first began my training. I think I would have made significantly better gains, especially when I was in my prime years, my 20s and 30s. As for Doug's nutrition, Doug not only experimented with the different types of training procedures for strength gains and size, but also with his diets. After I read the Zone Diet and books on the Atkins diet, I fell into the somewhat misguided belief that carbs are bad. I say somewhat because if we're not training hard in the gym, carbs do tend to make us fat. That's because carbs are sugars and starches tend to increase our production of insulin, and insulin can facilitate fat storage. For carbohydrates, Doug knew the importance of the right amount of fuel for the body to see the best results. Studying for many years the need for carbs and muscle growth, he explained that muscle is made up of glycogen, meaning that if we limit our carbohydrates, we will halt the process to build and repair muscle. When we train hard, however, we need insulin to help push protein into the muscle, and that need overrides the fat-storing effect of insulin. Essentially, it negates it. Plus, our muscles are largely composed of glycogen, which is as a stored carbohydrate. So if you limit your amount of carbs when you're training hard, especially in the off-season, you will be seriously compromising your ability to build muscle. Now, what can we learn from Doug Brignole? It just goes to show that even if you're like Doug, and were brought up with very little money, with the right amount of ambition and drive, you too can make your dreams come true. He started training at an early age, studied hard, compared notes with fellow bodybuilders, and went from strength to strength as the years went on. Owning his own gym at the early age of 24 and turning it into a successful business for over 11 years, Doug is a prime example of the American dream. With the same drive and thirst for knowledge, you too could have your very own physique of greatness and business to help others. Mini biography. Doug Brignole started his life with a rough childhood when his father abandoned the family and left his mother to raise both Doug and his brother. Her lack of the English language meant she struggled to provide food, clothing, and education to the boys, for at the time, she was working as a housekeeper on a low-wage income. But, through the tough times, Doug grew into a very successful and articulate young man. He started weight training at 14, won the national championships by the time he was 19, and opened his own gym, Doug Brignole's Fitness Training Club, at the age of 24 in Pasadena, California. This gym was over 10,400 square feet in size and later expanded to 25,000 square feet. Doug had over 50 full and part-time employees at this gym, and it's over 11 years it housed 7,000 members. Doug's thirst for learning and training kept on growing from his first encounters with weight training. He would read and study any magazine that he could get his hands on to learn new techniques. He would then compare his findings with fellow gym members from Bill Pearl's gym to see if he could learn anything new. He admits he experimented a lot at the beginning of his training, paying close attention to the results he was getting and observing the responses he would get from the training. I experimented and paid close attention to what I was feeling and the result I got in the days and weeks that followed the beginning of a new exercise or method. His experiments started to pay off as his results quickly showed, but Doug admits that a lot of his training was trial and error in the early days. Looking back at those early days, I can see clearly that I did some things wrong and I did some things right, if only by accident. Over the years, I came to have a much better understanding not only of what works, but also why it works. As Doug's professional career started to take off, he started to understand the mechanisms of bodybuilding much more, which led him into researching biomechanics, which he is now known almost exclusively for. Through years of training, Doug also personally trained hundreds of men and women of all ages. He helped people to achieve their goals and improve their quality of life. He's trained movie stars, government officials, competitive athletes, and people with handicaps. With all his hard work, he also trained personal trainers and has been approved by the American Council of Exercise, or ACE, as a continuing education provider. This let Doug issue continuing education credits, or CECs, to certified personal trainers, which allows them to maintain their credentials for their own personal training. Now, this small tribute I put together for my great mentor, Doug Brignole, I created in the hopes of honoring his beautiful posing as well as his beautiful mind. Doug was a one-of-a-kind man who had a truly unique style of posing. As Doug was primarily known for his biomechanical knowledge and not as much for his posing, I wanted to highlight his amazing physique and grace. However, this book also contains many of his very important biomechanical points that Doug was routinely making in all of his lectures and, of course, with his clients. I sincerely hope that this will help you in your journey in understanding yourselves, advancing your training, advancing your posing, and of course, remembering the great pioneer, my great mentor, as well as so many others, Doug Brignole. Now, on a personal note, I will be forever grateful to my very good friend and mentor for taking me under his wing the way he did many years ago, mentoring me, answering my many questions and endless emails, continuously providing me education and direction, as well as always pointing me in the right direction in terms of resources. Over the 8 years, I was friends with Doug. We had countless hours of discussions, not only about biomechanics, bodybuilding, nutrition, and much else, but also his philosophy on life. I consider myself very fortunate to have also had the pleasure of recording at least a few podcasts with Doug for your entertainment and education, although I do wish we had done more. Doug will be sorely missed by any who knew him, and there is not a doubt in my mind I would not be where I am today, nor the man I am today, without his tremendous influence in my life. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart, and I will do my best to carry the torch forward. Thank you, Doug.